Meeting on the air first and third Sunday, 7 p.m., W5FC. Good evening, everyone. This is speaking in 5F, and I'm going to do the next show with Skynet in about 4 minutes. So if you need to use the repeater before we get started, please do so now. We will begin Skynet at 2 o'clock. Thanks a lot. This is 5F.
This is N5BB. Your signal is very weak and noisy. You're holding the repeater, but you're going to need to speak loudly, and hopefully you can increase your power. N5BB.
W5FC. Okay, Bill, thank you. Let me check a couple of things. N5F.
Okay, Virginia. Yeah, it's just pretty noisy. I mean, I can understand you, but just letting you know it's like 50% noise. So anything you can do to improve it, just a little bit, would be of great assistance. N5BB.
Okay, I have increased a couple of things, including mic gain and power. Is this any better in G5S?
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Okay, this is Virginia, NV5F. I am in control for Skynet this evening. I was told that my signal was weak. I have tried to improve some things, and someone gives me a signal report from NV5F.
NV5F, KF5 PGM. Okay, I guess I'm not doubling this anyone. You are copyable, but as Bill said earlier, you're probably 50 or 75% of what it could be. KF5 PGM.
Okay, well, you need to tell me if it's going to be satisfactory for me to run the net. I don't know why that's the problem. I haven't changed any of my settings. My signal from my display here looks good. So I need someone to let me know if this is going to work or not. NV5F.
Well, speaking on behalf of nobody but myself, I'd say run the net. It'll work. You're readable. KF5 PGM.
Okay, I will do the best I can for the things that are beyond my control. I apparently don't have a wonderful full gliding signal this evening. I know I'm pretty far away, so hopefully this will work. This is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I will be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of every transmission. This weekly net operates on 146.88 MHz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using W5FC-R or station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check in to the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry if you keep wanting to check in via voice. We continue to do that over the air or on Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, and what's up. Next is space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple days, and as time allows, astronomical Q&A and a 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people check in via the website. Let's see, we have Tom, KE5 ICX in Corpus Christi. We have Cody, K5MCD in Dallas. We have Tony, NT5CM in Bird City. We have Virginia, that's me, NV5F. I'm somewhere in the atmosphere of Jupiter. We have Brenda, WV5OZL in Dallas. Chaz and Bob the Cat, KF5JHA, they're on Earth. N5OF Clay in Mesquite. And Bill, N5BD in Irving. And Travis, KI5PGM in McKinney. Okay, now let's start with voice check-in and with short-time check-ins. If you are a short-time check-in and you would like to get on tonight's list for Skynet, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Kilo 5. Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
Okay, for short time we have K5KDW, John and Coppell. Thank you for checking in. We appreciate you getting in here while you are able. Okay, next we have general check-ins. General check-ins for RF. If you're checking in via radio, regular check-ins, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra. This is Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, so far we have added W5GUS, Gus in Dallas. We've added KF5WL, Bill in Farmers Branch, and KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton. Thank you for checking in. And let's see, what else do we have here? Let me check the online forum one more time to see if we've added any more people. Yes, we have added KG5MHG Angela in Aubrey, so thank you for checking in over the online link. Okay, next we have Echolink check-ins. Anyone who wishes to check in via Echolink, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Alrighty. Now we're open to all check-ins. Any mode, anywhere, anyone. Get on the list. Come with your call sign, your name, and location. Okay, nothing heard, but we will ask for more check-ins later on as other people arrive. So, next is announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or general interest to licensed ham. Please come now with your announcements.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, Tony, go ahead with your announcement.
Well, thank you, Virginia. This is a great net, but it's not our last one of the night. Tonight's Afterglow movie discussion is the last net. We'll focus on Rocketship XM, a cheap, hastily made, kind of depressing knockoff of the much more famous Destination Moon from 1950. We'll talk about that movie tonight at about 10:30-ish p.m. We're usually a little after 10:30. Now, this Monday will be the night of our next MCOM 101 Public Service Communications Training and Discussion Net. You don't need to be a member of ARES or RACES. You only need an interest in public service. That's this Monday at 7 p.m. on this repeater. And finally, I heard from Travis during TechNet that volunteer sign-up is open for the Plano Balloon Festival. The festival has a reduced need for ham volunteers this year. They're going to try fewer flights than usual because most of their flights never happen anyway. So please sign up now. Don't wait if you're interested. It's hard to do because it has one of those awful URLs. Go to your favorite search engine and search for the magic word PBF Comms Sup, Plano Balloon Festival, Papa Bravo Foxtrot, Comms, Charlie Oscar Mike Mike S, Sierra, then another Sierra, Sierra Uniform Papa Papa. So that's 2 M's, 2 S's, 2 P's. PBF Comms Sup. Why can't they just make it easy? Anyway, NC5DM back to net.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Appreciate those announcements. And hopefully I can get us done in time for Afterglow at 10:30. I'm going to make this as brisk as I can because apparently my signal is not great tonight for some reason. Okay, let's see. Next, I will talk about AMSAT. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You can check out the National AMSAT net, learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or the new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and get registered. You can find the net under Groups and under AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet, all one word, amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. AMSAT also has 2 local nets available in this area, and both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as the others who are checked in. AMSAT Net East for Dallas-Fort Worth is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, CL tone 110.9. That's every Tuesday at 8. Tom, N5HYP is the usual net control. I've been known to run that net from time to time as well. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so we don't have an AMSAT East net that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, CL tone 110.9, positive offset. This DARC repeater also has a ton of other nets in addition to the AMSAT net. We've got the early traffic net every night at 6:30. We have a variety of different nets on Mondays. We have some Sunday nets. I am not going to read all of these. I will encourage anyone who wants to know our fabulous full schedule of nets, go to W5FC.org and find the tab that talks about nets. You'll find a schedule for all of our nets there. But tonight is the night of nets. We had early traffic net at 6:30. We had TechNet at 7. We are now having Skynet, and if you really like nets, you can stay up till midnight tonight and talk to us about the movie Rocketship XM on the Afterglow net. Speaking of the Afterglow, will it be a hit or a miss? Thumbs up, thumbs down, you make the call. And we will ask Tom, KE5ICX, all the way from beautiful Corpus Christi, Texas. He is our de facto leader, and he will hopefully be able to give us a wonderful synopsis of tonight's Afterglow movie. Take it away, Tom, from NV5F.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and this is Tom down in Corpus Christi, KE5ICX. Here's tonight's Afterglow info. White Sands was a great place to build a new carnival for the locals. It had everything: Ferris wheel, bumper cars, a roller coaster, house of mirrors, and of course the required rocket ship that can go to the moon and sometimes beyond. Colonel Floyd Graham, Dr. Lisa Van Horn, Dr. Carl Ekstrom, Harry Chamberlain, and Major William Corrigan sat in their flight couches waiting patiently for their first customers. Business was slow. The roller coaster and bumper cars attracted long lines, but their rocket ship sat ignored. Graham had an idea. If it could say we'll take passengers to the moon or maybe Mars, that seemed like a great idea. They added additional high-octane ethyl to the spaceship fuel tanks. Passengers could pick either the 25-cent tickets for the moon flight or go on the Mars trip for 75 cents. Suddenly, a line started forming. The Mars trip was looking pretty promising. Join us for the next Afterglow movie, Rocketship XM from 1950. It's in glorious HD. It was recently put out on Facebook that way, or not Facebook, but YouTube, and they added color. I don't think the color is all that great, but you'll find the live link over on the W5FC website, and it's under tonight's announcement for Skynet. That's it. That's it, Virginia. Back to you. This is KE5ICX. No brain fart there for a second.
Okay, Tom, thank you so much for that really accurate information about tonight's movie. Like I said, you can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Okay, and I just checked the online sheets. We don't have any additional check-ins there. But if you would like to check in online, you can go to w5fc.org. At the top of the page will be tonight's Skynet announcement, and the link to check in via the web portal thingy will be right there at the top. Okay, and any additional voice check-ins, any mode, anywhere, if you'd like to check into Skynet this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is your net control NV5F.
Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power.
Alrighty, we've added WB4MFI Ted in Dallas. Thanks for checking in this evening. And next we will go to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. Chaz, KF5JHA, is our guide to where to look through a telescope this week. Chaz, take it away.
Can I be the cruise director instead of just the guide? Oh, well, I was just thinking about that. Yeah, Bob the cat is out on the balcony, so I'm not a threat to being attacked by a cat on the computer right now. On August the 22nd, that's just in a couple weeks, is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and it also has a Zoom component. Featured speaker is, I don't know, and the topic, I don't know. The last time I heard, we didn't have a person, so, hey, if you'd like to volunteer and become the featured speaker, we'll be glad to take it. Just contact me, and I'll forward it to our vice president. Now, past hosts a Saturday night observing session to the public. Different places in the different parts of the Metroplex depending on the Saturday. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Public Observing Sessions. On the second Saturday of the month, the stargazing is held at Frisco. Now, it's nice and clear, but Frisco is a really fur piece. Can I say that? Fur piece? From the repeater, so I'm not sure if there's anybody out there. But is there anybody at Frisco Star Party that would like to make a report? Come down with your call sign if you'd like to do so. I guess that's a no. Okay. But there's a lot of interesting things, and there's a full moon rising, so it's going to wipe out a lot of faint things, but you can still see a lot of things like star clusters and double stars, and wow, could be a lot of things you can see. Now, you can check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5, JJ, back to our night control. Virginia, you're sounding fine. I can hear you very easily.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. And all you have to do to become cruise director is ask for that promotion because you have been promoted. And I appreciate the signal report very much. Okay, next we have Bill in 5DB with National Space Society events and activities. Take it away, Bill.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and you're sounding fine right now. Not perfect, but fine. This is N5DB, and I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month, which is tomorrow. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. Again, the next chapter meeting will be tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, August the 10th. The virtual presentation will be by Dr. Rosalie Lopez of NASA JPL, who will discuss the Cassini-Huygens space probe, which investigated Saturn's moon Titan. Our meetings are also available virtually using WebEx. Contact Bill N5DB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, if you'd like to attend. The United States Mint opened sales for rolls and bags containing the fourth and final American Innovation Texas $1 coin of 2025 last week. The reversed or tails design of this particular coin honors the innovation of mission control at the Johnson Space Center in Texas. and there is an astronaut in a spacesuit adjacent to the International Space Station shown on this coin, and it says Texas, and it's a cool coin. N5BB ordered some of these coins, so come by the National Space Society North Texas Chapter meeting tomorrow afternoon in Irving if you'd like to see or obtain one of these coins. They are legal tender, but they're not released through normal circulation. You have to buy them from the U.S. Mint. On the last Friday evening of each month at 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas Chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. 11 people, that might be a record, 11 people attended the July 25th Space Rendezvous event. The next Space Rendezvous social event will be held on Friday evening, August the 29th. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. And we are very sad to learn of the recent death of Jim Lowell, of Gemini and Apollo 13 fame. This is N5BB, back to net. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Appreciate the signal report. Okay, next we're on to recent astronomical discoveries. We're into W5OZL. What do you have for us this evening, Brenda?
This is W5OZL, my favorite, black holes. Name of this article is Black Holes Don't Just Swallow Light, They Sing, and We Just Learned the Tune. Black holes embody the ultimate abyss. They are the most powerful sources of gravity in the universe, capable of dramatically distorting space and time around them. When disturbed, they begin to ring in a distinctive pattern known as quasi-normal modes, ripples in space-time that produce detectable gravitational waves. In events like black hole mergers, these waves can be strong enough to detect from Earth, offering a unique opportunity to measure a black hole's mass and shape. However, precise calculation of these vibrations through theoretical methods has proven a major challenge, particularly for vibrations that are rapidly weakening. This inspired a team of researchers at Kyoto University to try a new method of calculating the vibrations of black holes. The scientists apply a mathematical technique called the exact Wenzel-Kramer's brilliant, or exact WKB analysis to carefully trace the behavior of waves from a black hole out into distant space. While this method has long been studied in mathematics, its application to physics, especially black holes, is still newly developing area. The foundations of the exact WKB method were largely developed by Japanese mathematicians. As a researcher from Japan, I, the author, have always found this field intellectually and culturally familiar, says corresponding author Taiga Miyachi. This method allowed the research team to follow wave patterns in great detail, even in regions that are difficult to analyze with other existing methods. Their approach involved examining space near the black hole by extending it into the complex number domain, revealing a rich structure of black hole's geometry. I'm going to reset. This included a mathematical phenomenon called Stokes curves, which designate where the nature of a wave suddenly changes. While the previous studies have often overlooked the infinitely spiraling Stokes curves and paths that branch off from black holes, the research team incorporated these complex features into their analysis. The findings reveal that the team has succeeded in developing a method that systematically and precisely captures the frequency structure of rapidly weakening vibrations. This demonstrates the power of the exact WKB method as a practical tool for bridging theoretical predictions with observational data. We were surprised at how complex and beautiful the underlying structure of these vibrations turned out to be. We found spiraling patterns in our mathematical analysis that have been missed before, and these turned out to be the key in understanding the full picture of quasi-normal modes, says Miyachi. The study makes it possible to analyze the ringing sounds of black holes across a wide range of theoretical models. Ultimately, this may help improve the precision of future gravitational wave observations and lead to a deeper, more reliable understanding. So the last paragraph, more reliable understanding of the true nature of our universe and its geometry. Looking ahead, the research team plans to extend their approach to rotating black holes and to explore the application of exact WKB analysis in studies related to quantum gravity effects. This is from ScienceDaily.com, and this is WB5OZL. Back to Nat.
All right, thanks, Brenda. That's cool. I be busy, so I like to hear about interesting shooting and, black holes. They never cease to amaze. All right, well, I'm the net control, so I get to take to the second topic of the evening, and so we'll go on to another more local phenomenon. And this evening I will explore 3 articles which postulate that perhaps diamonds can form in the atmospheric pressure of the gas and ice giants, the giant planets in the outer solar system. So this presentation is called Diamonds in the Sky, Ice on the Ice Giants. And I will begin with a quote from a book that I've read a bunch of times. And here we go. He had almost reached the center of the planet, but Jupiter had one more surprise in store. The thick shell of metallic yet still fluid hydrogen ended abruptly. At last, there was a solid surface. 60,000 kilometers down. For ages, the carbon baked out of the chemical reactions far above had been drifting down toward the center of the planet. There it had gathered, crystallizing at a pressure of millions of atmospheres. And there, by one of nature's supreme jests, was something very precious to mankind. The core of Jupiter, forever beyond human reach, was a diamond as big as the Earth. And so, in this moment, from Arthur C. Clarke's 1982 sequel novel to 2001: A Space Odyssey, Clarke pulls one of his signature science-based surprise twists. As the disembodied Dave Bowman explores the planet Jupiter, he travels down and down through all the layers of the giant planet's atmosphere, passing through myriads of primitive life forms, finding the ultimate punchline in the solar system. And when I read this book when I was 12, my mind was completely blown. It was one of the coolest things I had ever read anywhere. I will, to this day, I've never forgot it. I will never forget it. So Clarke, he was rather pleased with his own cleverness, and he took this one tiny detail from 2010 and made it a major plot device in the next novel, the sequel to that, which is 2061 Odyssey 3. But not being one to just make stuff up, he went so far as to even cite the original article, which is the inspiration for Jupiter's speculated pure compressed carbon core in the pages of the novel 2010. I often wonder why he decided to cite this paper in 2061, and he worked that into the storyline of actually citing the original article. And I wonder if it was perhaps to save any possible ridicule by his colleagues when they read in 2061 the plot, the major plot in that book of Jupiter's core having once been made of just a ginormous diamond. Let's see. The source of this tangent-turned major plot line was a one-page paper written by Marvin Ross and published in a July 1981 issue of the journal Nature. And what's really funny about this is that 44 years later, this article is still turning up as relevant in studies of the ice giants, namely Neptune and Uranus. Though, as Clark did with Jupiter, the concept is now also being applied to the gas giants, Jupiter and Saturn, despite the fact that they have far fewer carbon-based compounds by percentage than the ice planets. The original article is entitled "The Ice Layer of Uranus and Neptune, Diamonds in the Sky?" ? And it is actually cited very, very specifically by Arthur C. Clarke in the prose of 2061 Odyssey 3, which I have recently been rereading with some friends online who are doing sort of a 2001 related book club. So we're rereading this book. The article by Marvin Ross was written through the University of California Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and it was published in July of 1981. I have read this article, but I will spare you the reading of the original paper, which is mostly jargon and is barely connected to Clarke's fanciful Odyssey 3 plot, let alone the detail from Odyssey 2 which spawned it. However, there is an excellent article from 2018 in an issue of American Scientist which spells it all out in plain English and includes a description of more recent attempts to test Ross's hypothesis of the diamond rain, as it has come to be called. So this article is from 2018, and it is called "On Neptune is Raining Diamonds," and it's by Dominic Krauss, and it is from American Scientist, and it can be found on their website. Okay, so it goes like this. East in Neptune and Uranus, it rains diamonds, or so astronomers and physicists have suspected for nearly 40 years. The outer planets of our solar system are hard to study, however. Only a single space mission, Voyager 2, has flown by to reveal some of their secrets. So diamond rain has remained only a hypothesis. Beyond the lingering mystery of the diamond rain, there's a big loss in our failure to study Uranus and Neptune inside and out. It limits our understanding of the solar system and the galaxy because planets of this size have turned out to be extremely common in the Milky Way. The number of planets similar in size to Uranus and Neptune that have been found in the galaxy is roughly 9 times greater than the number of much larger planets similar in size to Jupiter and Saturn. The outermost planets also seem to bear scars that could tell us a lot about the formation of our own solar system. So there's a growing sense of urgency to explore Neptune and Uranus, both to better understand where and how planetary systems form, and also to refine our ideas about where to look for planets that can sustain life. Although we've been limited by spacecraft and ground-based telescopes regarding how much we can learn about the exteriors of Uranus and Neptune, advances in laboratory simulations are enabling remarkable new insights about what's happening in their interiors, including what gives rise to diamond rain. Discoveries such as these reveal the complexity of the chemical processes involved in the evolution of these planets. Our simulations give clues to the internal nature of worlds far beyond the solar system, even worlds that we may never see directly from the outside. Neptune and Uranus are called the ice giants of our solar system because their outer two layers consist of compounds that include hydrogen and helium. In astronomy slang, ice refers to all compounds of light elements that contain hydrogen. So the planet's water, H2O, ammonia, NH3, and methane, CH4, makes them icy. The beautiful bluish hue of both planets is the result of methane traces in their atmospheres. However, it is the ice in the deep middle layers that really shapes their properties. On Neptune, for example, beneath a hydrogen-helium atmosphere that is 3,000 kilometers thick, lies an ice layer that is 17,500 kilometers thick. Simulations suggest that gravity compresses the ices in the middle layer to high densities, and the internal heat raises the internal temperatures to several thousand Kelvin. Despite the high temperatures, pressures more than 1 million times greater than the atmospheric pressure on Earth compress the so-called ices into a hot, dense fluid. Under such heat and pressures, ammonia and methane are chemically reactive. Scientists have modeled exotic processes, including diamond formation, taking place between the compounds deep within the ice layers. Marvin Ross of Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory first introduced the diamond rain idea in a 1981 article in Nature titled "The Ice Layer of Uranus and Neptune, Diamonds in the Sky." He suggested that the carbon and hydrogen atoms of hydrocarbons, such as methane, separate at high pressures and high temperatures inside the ice giant planet. Clusters of isolated carbon atoms would then be squeezed into a diamond structure, which is the most stable form of carbon under such conditions. Diamond is denser than the methane, ammonia, and water left in the ice layer, so the carbon crystal would start to sink toward the planet's core. It would accumulate new layers as it falls when it touches other isolated carbon atoms or diamonds, allowing individual diamond blocks to reach a size meters in diameter. We think that as a result, a thick layer of carbon surrounds the rocky cores of Uranus and Neptune. This carbon layer may consist of blocks of solid diamond, or if the temperature is extremely high, as some planet models suggest, it might transform into liquid carbon or a mix of solid carbon and liquid carbon. If the layer is a mix of solid and liquid carbon, the solid carbon would be of lower density than the liquid, with the result that large diamond birds would float on top of an ocean of liquid carbon. Each possible composition of the carbon layer, solid, liquid, or mixed, would affect the core of the planet differently. Solid diamond, for example, is electrically insulating and has a thick crystal lattice, whereas liquid carbon is a metallic conductor and flexible. Determining the properties of the carbon layer could reveal whether or not Neptune and Uranus formed from a rocky protoplanet core billions of years ago. Although Ross's idea was certainly fascinating, it was mainly hypothetical at the time and needed to be verified by observation. It is impossible with any imaginable technology to design and build a probe that could penetrate deep into Neptune or Uranus and directly observe the formation of diamonds. Scientists instead have tried to recreate the extreme conditions of planetary interiors in their laboratories. Even this more limited goal is extremely challenging, since we need to reliably generate and measure pressures of several million atmospheres and temperatures of several thousand kelvins to simulate their effects on the elements found inside the ice giant. In essence, we need to build a piece of a planet in the lab. Facilities around the world are tackling the problem by compressing a sample material such as methane between two diamond anvils with very small tips that press on the sample. The same effective pressure enhancement can be seen on a different scale by placing something underneath the heel of a high-heeled shoe. Even though diamond anvils can generate pressures of several megabars, comparable to the pressure that would be produced by placing several thousand African elephants on top of that high-heeled shoe, the sample also needs to be heated by electrical currents or lasers in order to mimic hot planetary interiors. Using such a setup, some experiments have indeed formed diamonds. However, in these setups, the materials representing the planetary ice layers, methane, ammonia, or water, start to react with diamond anvils and the gasket. Those reactions can strongly alter and contaminate the results. Another way to generate the extreme pressure and temperature conditions found inside the ice giant planets is to create shock compression using strong explosives, high-velocity gun projectile impacts, or pulsed high-energy lasers. Although this process both compresses and heats the sample at the same time, the samples remain in the interesting state for only a tiny fraction of a second, particularly for the high-energy lasers, which can achieve gigabar pressures and temperatures of millions of kelvins, comparable to the temperature of the center of the sun. The conditions usually last a few nanoseconds or less. That is a very limited time in which to obtain precise and direct measurements of structural changes of the sample. This situation changed in 2009 with the completion of the world's first X-ray free electron laser. The LINAC coherent light source at Stanford University, combining this machine with a powerful pulse laser system, allows us to study chemical reactions and conditions comparable to those in deep interiors of giant planets in real time. Plastics, which are mainly made out of carbon and hydrogen, are useful substances to mimic the material mix in the ice layers of Neptune and Uranus. In such experiments, the pulsed high-energy laser is focused on a spot 200 micrometers in diameter, which heats a thin surface layer of plastic sample that is 80 micrometers thick. Its surface is instantaneously transformed into extremely hot plasma with temperatures of several million Kelvin. This plasma vapor expands rapidly. As a result, an extreme pressure force presses the remaining plastic material and drives strong compression waves into the sample. If tuned correctly, the experiment can precisely mimic the pressure and temperature conditions predicted inside the ice giant planet. The conditions only last for a billionth of a second, yet every single flash provides a precise snapshot of the chemical reactions inside the sample materials. The experiments show that even on such extremely short timescales, chemical processes are fast enough to grow tiny diamonds from the carbon atoms inside the plastic sample. The formation rates observed in the lab suggest that within Uranus and Neptune, where there have been many millions of years to grow diamonds, meter-sized carbon crystals can form. Understanding the inner processes of the ice giants gives clues to the features of these planets. For example, diamond precipitation releases gravitational energy, which is converted to heat by friction between the diamonds and the surrounding material as they descend. This effect could explain why Neptune is emitting more energy than it receives from the sun. Such an internal energy source may help to account for the origin of the surprisingly violent storms that are observed on the planet's surface. Diamond formation may also explain why the ice giant planet's magnetic fields are so exotic. Unlike Earth's magnetic field, the fields around Uranus and Neptune are not symmetrical, and they don't extend from each pole. These properties suggest the ice giant field probably originates not in the core, but in a thin, rather vulnerable layer of conducting material, such as metallic hydrogen formed as byproducts of making diamonds. Other exotic processes inside the planets may also contribute to their magnetic fields. For instance, the formation of so-called superionic structures of water and ammonia in which hydrogen ions can move freely through a crystal lattice of oxygen and nitrogen can add to the conducting material of the magnetic field. We will continue to study these phenomena in the lab, but a new space probe mission to Neptune or Uranus, or both, could add a wealth of information about the planet's internal processes and about how such planets have formed in our solar system and others. NASA is currently considering such a mission in 2030. The planets of our solar system will be favorably aligned for a spacecraft to launch and reach Uranus or Neptune by 2040. Another fortuitous alignment of the planets won't come for another 2 generations, so now is the time to start thinking about exploring the ice giants up close and learning more about their solar system's intriguing diamond world. And here's a final short article. This is Virginia in D5F Net Control for Skynet. I am going to finish the presentation this evening with a short article from space.com back in 2013. So this actually came out before the article I just read, and this is regarding the possibility of the same phenomenon possibly happening in the atmospheres of Jupiter and Saturn. And it is called Diamond Rain May Fill Skies of Jupiter and Saturn, and this is by Miriam Kramer. Again, this is from space.com. It says, diamonds, the saying goes, are a girl's best friend, and Jupiter and Saturn just might be filled to the brim with them, scientists say. Chunks of diamonds may be floating in hydrogen and helium fluids deep in the atmospheres of Saturn and Jupiter. What's more, at even lower depths, the extreme pressure and temperature can melt the precious gem, literally making it rain liquid diamond, researchers said. The new data available has confirmed that at depth, diamonds may be floating around inside of Saturn, some growing so large that they could perhaps be called diamond birds. Officials from California Specialty Engineering in Pasadena, California, wrote in a statement announcing the discovery today, this is October 9th, 2013. Planetary scientists Mona Zalitsky of CSE and Kevin Baines of the University of Wisconsin-Madison conducted the research. Diamonds can form when elemental carbon like graphite or soot created by huge lightning storms on Saturn falls into the deep atmosphere of the planet, where it is crushed into the gem. Baines and Zalitsky said those solid diamonds then move farther into the depths of the planet, where they turn into a liquid near the core. Scientists have known that stable diamonds may exist in the relatively chilly cores of Neptune and Uranus, but until now, Jupiter and Saturn were thought to be too hot to allow for solid, stable diamond formation. Diamonds are forever on Uranus and Neptune, and not on Jupiter and Saturn, Zalitsky and Baines wrote. In a book called Alien Seas, Baines and Zalitsky detailed the story of how robotic mining ships may eventually be able to roam the interior of Saturn sometime in the future to collect diamonds and return them to Earth. Although it is still a mysterious process, scientists think that on Earth, diamonds form naturally when carbon is buried about 100 miles below the surface. The future diamond then needs to be heated to approximately 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 1,093 degrees Celsius, and squeezed under pressure of around 725,000 pounds per square inch. It also needs to quickly move to Earth's surface, usually catching a ride with some fast-moving magma to cool down. The new diamond research was presented on October 9th, 2013 at the American Astronomical Society's Division for Planetary Science's 45th annual meeting in Denver. Alien planets could also play host to diamonds. An exoplanet 40 light years from the solar system is made largely out of diamonds, astronomers have said. Scientists think the planet named 55 Cancri E is more carbon-rich than Earth, an ideal environment for diamond formation. A new study from the University of Arizona cast doubt on that conclusion, however. The new research suggests that 55 Cancri E might not be quite so diamond-laden because its host star is not as carbon-rich as originally expected. And there's no way I can read 3 articles without, well, read 2 and talk about one without a few comments at the end. So here goes. Perhaps the only thing that could drive the continuing pursuit of this research for over 40 years is just the human fascination with diamonds, which are not so rare or precious as our modern mythology might lead us to believe. However, they can be beautiful, they are definitely durable, and are certainly useful in lots of fields, including science. In addition to taking they do take some extremely rare and beautiful forms in terms of clarity and color, and that does make some of them extremely valuable. It is apparent that there's little or no way of ever proving the existence of diamonds in the lower atmospheres or at the cores of the outer planets. Despite what I think is kind of a ludicrous notion of robot probes going to mine diamonds in the atmospheres of Jupiter and Saturn, it would cost more than the diamonds would the Earth to go get them and bring them back. But I do find it remarkable that Lark from 2010 Odyssey 2 regarding the core of Jupiter being a solid piece of crystallized carbon at pressures where diamond can only exist as a molten substance and not a big giant crystal. Though a complete fantasy, was a little closer to reality than perhaps he might have even guessed way back in 1981. And I still think it's a neat story twist, and I will absolutely never forget it. And I appreciate you for listening to this presentation about diamonds in the sky. Does anyone out there have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? Please come now with your call sign. This is NV5F.
W5GUS.
Okay, W5GUS.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. W5GUS here. I'm just wondering if the diamonds, if there are the diamonds there, what if they would have any different properties than the diamonds found here on Earth. So some curiosity there. W5GUS.
Well, based on what I read, I did read a little bit while I was, a little bit extra while I was doing this, working this up, and I guess the most pure form of diamond, which would be the, clear white kind that has, the ones that are the most precious for jewelry, I would say that, it would probably have the same exact structure and makeup as those diamonds, because diamond is just nothing but carbon in a very tight lattice that's pressurized. But a lot of the diamonds here on Earth have different qualities based on some of the impurities that are in the lattice. Apparently there are some very rare colors of diamonds that can be found on Earth. So I guess the only difference might be that there might be some kind of impurities, but it just seems like if they're derived from ammonia or methane or even water, that there probably isn't a lot to make impurities in those carbons. So that's a good question. My answer is that I think they would be pretty similar to diamonds here on Earth, but maybe even more pure and bigger and, more, maybe even more regularly shaped. So that's a very good question. I can't answer it absolutely, but my instinct is that they would probably be the same as diamonds found on Earth, but bigger, if they actually do exist. So hope that helps answer your question. Any more questions or comments, please come now with your call sign. All righty, thank you so much, Gus, for your question. That's something I need to probably read up on and see if I can find out anything about that. All righty. And next we have Chaz, KF5JHA with What's Up, what you can see in the daytime and nighttime sky. Take it away, Chaz.
Thank you, Virginia. Slide Master, that would be Tom. Slide Master, slide number 2, please. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What Is Up, because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what's going to take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year ago. New predictions of November the 10th of this year, 2025, or June the 25th of 2026 have been made. But when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 4. Now, if you're watching the video version of Skynet, that would be available on YouTube. You can go to the W5FC.org website and to get the link to do that. If you're on the video version, this picture of the sun was I borrowed from spaceweather.com on Wednesday, August the 6th. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you could use your solar eclipse glasses to see them without any other optical aid. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. Now, I've talked about the solar cycle about 4 months ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5. Go outside and take a look up. Right now, August the 9th, it's the full moon. So on August the 14th, the moon is at perigee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 369,288 kilometers. Third quarter moon is on August the 16th. New moon is on August the 23rd. On August the 29th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,548 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 6. Just a few evenings on August the 11th and 12th, the peak of the Perseid meteor shower will take place with up to 100 meteors per hour. Now, most of the time you can see the highest number of meteors the hour just before dawn. To get detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at AMSmeteors.org. This year's Perseid meteor shower is going to be hampered by the bright moon in the sky. Slide Master, slide number 7. On the early morning of August the 12th, there is the conjunction of the moon, Saturn, Neptune. This is early morning of when the Perseids peak. Well, and in the opposite part of the sky, Slide Master, slide number 8, on August the 12th, and the opposite side of the sky, just like I said, in the northeastern part of the sky, there's a conjunction of Jupiter and Venus. They're only going to be about 1 degree apart from each other. The two brightest things other than the sun and the moon, close together. That should be interesting to see. Slide Master, slide number 9. Beginning on the morning of August the 16th, there's a daytime occultation of the Pleiades star cluster. Now, you'll need to have a moderate-sized telescope to observe this. Can't see with your 2 eyes, can't see with binoculars. You'll need to have not even a small telescope, but you'll need to have a moderate-sized telescope. You need to be very careful, though, because you don't want to point your telescope at the sun. It could hurt your telescope and your eyes both. Slide Master, slide number 10. On August the 19th, there's a conjunction of Mercury and M44, the Beehive star cluster, in the northeastern morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 11. On August the 20th, the Moon, Venus, and Pollux are in conjunction in the east-northeastern morning sky. Slide number 12. On August the 21st, a conjunction of the Moon, Mercury, and M44, that's also known as the Beehive Star Cluster, can be observed in the east-northeastern morning sky. And this is KF5GHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 13. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question? Or maybe you need a fill on some of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, slide number 14. So as the moon wanes, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, actually I probably will be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5GHA, and this is Skynet, transmitting on W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz frequency. Back to our net control. Virginia, it's up to you.
Okay, thanks, Jazz. Appreciate that report about the moon and meteor showers. Okay, next we have space exploration and space history with Gus, W5GUS. So, Gus, give us our space history and space news. NB5F.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. W5GUS here with space exploration news. First story is NASA's newest mission called Tracers will soon begin studying how Earth's magnetic field protects our planet from the effects of space weather. Short for tandem reconnection and cusp electrodynamics reconnaissance satellites. The twin Tracers satellite spacecraft both lifted off at Wednesday aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Space Launch Complex 4 in Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. And acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy said, quote, NASA is proud to launch Tracers to demonstrate and expand American preeminence in space science, research, and technology. The Tracers satellites will move us forward in decoding space weather and further our understanding of the connection between Earth and the Sun. This mission will yield breakthroughs that will advance our pursuit of the Moon and subsequently Mars. Interestingly, the twin satellites will fly one behind the other, following as closely as 10 seconds apart over the same location, and will take a record-breaking 3,000 measurements in 1 year to build a step-by-step picture of how magnetic reconnection changes over time. Ground controllers for the Tracers mission established communications with the second of the two spacecraft about 3 hours after it separated from the rocket, and during the next 4 weeks, Tracers will undergo commissioning period, during which mission controllers will check out their instruments and systems. Okay, Rocket Lab, a space flight company based in California, has spent years building up a reputation as a reliable launch service provider for small satellites. And maybe you've heard about Rocket Lab's diminutive Electron launch vehicle, which the company bills as the second most active rocket in the U.S. Or maybe you've heard about its next generation neutron spacecraft, which could soon be making its inaugural flight from Virginia. Rocket Lab is a space provider founded in 2006, based in Long Beach, California. The company operates out of 3 launch pads at 2 launch sites, including a launch site in New Zealand and 2 in Virginia at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport within NASA's flight facility out there. Rocket Lab has increasingly been in the news over mounting anticipation for the first launch of its upcoming heavier lift neutron rocket. The satellite launch vehicle is central to Rocket Lab's plans to shift from small satellite deployments to missions with heavier payloads. But when exactly the neutron rocket could make its orbital debut is yet to be determined. Okay, big news for this ISS. The NASA's SpaceX Crew 10, consisting of 4 astronauts, has safely returned to Earth after nearly a 5-month mission aboard the ISS. Crew Dragon capsule named Endurance splashed down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California at 11:33 a.m. EDT. The crew included NASA astronauts Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers, JAXA astronaut Tayuka Onishi, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov. Okay, and Bill mentioned this earlier, but famed NASA astronaut Jim Lovell, who commanded the harrowing Apollo 13 mission that was forced to abandon a lunar landing attempt in 1970, has died, and he is 97. Lovell died on August 7th at Lake Forest, Illinois, according to NASA's news release. Cause of death was not immediately clear. And the other end of the spectrum, birthdays, August 3rd through the 9th. Joan Higginbotham, August the 3rd, 1964. She was on STS-116. Michael McCulley, August the 4th, 1943, STS-34. And Charles Gimar, August the 4th, 1955, STS-38, STS-48, STS-62. Andrew Allen was August 4th, 1955. He was on STS-46, STS-62, STS-75. And here's a famous one, Neil Armstrong, August the 5th, 1930, Gemini 8 and that other Apollo 11 thing. Okay, Winston Scott, August the 6th, 1950, on STS-72, STS-87. Gregory Chamintoff was August 6, 1962, STS-124, and Expedition 1718, and STS-134, one of the later shuttles. Kent Roninger, August the 7th, 1956, on STS-73, STS-80, STS-85, STS-96, STS-100. And Jose Hernandez, August the 7th, 1962, was on STS-128. All right, let's move on to this week in space history. August the 3rd, 2004, was the launch of Messenger. Messenger was a NASA robotic space probe that orbited the planet Mercury between 2011 and 2015, studying Mercury's chemical composition, geology, magnetic field. The name is an acronym for Mercury Surface, Space, Environment, Geochemistry, and Ranging, and a reference to the messenger god Mercury from Roman mythology. Messenger was launched aboard a Delta II rocket August 04. Its path involved a complex series of flybys. The spacecraft flew by Earth once, Venus twice, Mercury itself 3 times, and which allowed it to decelerate relative to Mercury using minimal fuel. During the first flyby of Mercury in January 2008, Messenger became the second mission after Mariner 10 back in 1975 to reach Mercury. Well, Messenger entered orbit around Mercury March 18th, 2011, becoming the first spacecraft to do so. It successfully completed its primary mission in 2012, following 2 mission extensions. The spacecraft used the last of its maneuvering propellant to deorbit, impacting the surface of Mercury on April 30th, 2015. Okay, and on October 5th, 2011, let's see, the scientific results obtained by Messenger during its first 6 terrestrial months on Mercury's orbit were presented in a series of papers at the European Planetary Science Congress in France. Among the discoveries presented were the unexpectedly high concentration of magnesium and calcium found on Mercury's night side, and the fact that Mercury's magnetic field is offset far to the north of the planet's center. On July 3rd, 2008, the Messenger team announced that the probe had discovered large amounts of water present in Mercury's exosphere, which was an unexpected finding. In the later years of its mission, as well as evidence for liquid iron planetary core. The probe also constructed the most detailed and accurate maps of Mercury to date, and furthermore discovered carbon-containing organic compounds and water ice inside permanently shadowed craters near the North Pole. All right, now August the 6th, 2012, NASA's Mars rover, Curiosity, made one of the most dramatic and harrowing landings in the history of space exploration, according to this. In the very early morning of August 6th, 2012, a rocket-powered sky crane lowered the car-sized Curiosity down onto Mars' red dirt using cables, then flew off and crash-landed intensely a safe distance away. Curiosity team members had modeled this novel technique repeatedly using computers, but it had never been tested fully here on Earth, yet alone employed on the surface of another planet. Still, everything worked perfectly at crunch time, and Curiosity soon began exploring the interior of Mars' 96-mile wide Gale crater. The discoveries came fast. The rover found that the area near its landing site harbored a lake and stream system long ago, showing that at least some parts of the red planet could have supported microbial life in ancient past. The main goal of the Curiosity mission is to answer that very question. And by the way, the head lead for Curiosity was the chief engineer also for the Mars 2020 rover, Perseverance. Okay, August 8th, 2001, NASA's Genesis probe was launched from Cape Canaveral. Its goal was to collect a sample of the solar wind from beyond the Moon's orbit and return it back to Earth for further study. While in space, the craft pointed its detectors toward the sun, where the particles of the solar wind became embedded. After 850 days of collection, the spacecraft returned to Earth. The sample return capsule was meant to be retrieved in midair. However, the parachute designed to slow the capsule failed, and the spacecraft crashed into the Utah desert at 193 miles per hour on September 8, 2004. While some of the sample collectors were contaminated by the crash, many were recovered and analyzed, further increasing our knowledge of solar wind. Okay, and now let's move on to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Back to you, Virginia, W5GUS.
Okay, thanks, Gus. Appreciate it. And yes, Chaz, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week.
Thank you, Virginia. Flight Master, flight number 15. The Carolyn Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent T. Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we continue that tradition of a constellation per week and name this segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Lyra the Harp, or the lyre. Lyra represents a small hand harp called a lyre. If you have seen a picture of an angel holding a small harp, that's a lyre. If I harp on it too much about this constellation, you can just call me a liar. Okay, that was a bunch of jokes right there. But Flight Master, flight number 16, one of the most important parts of Skynet are jokes of the week. Why are harps like elderly parents? Both are unforgiving and hard to get into and out of cars. There you go. How long does a harp stay in tune? Well, about 20 minutes, or until someone opens up the door, changes the temperature, the thing goes out of tune pretty easily. Maybe just like playing a harp. It looks like it's easy until you try it. What do you call a cow that plays a harp? A musician. What do you call a successful harpist? A harpist with a spouse that has two jobs. And the final one. So, this is the last harp joke of the night. I just like stringing you along. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Flight Masters, flight number 17. There's several interesting stars on Lyra. Vega being the fifth brightest star in the sky. The other interesting stars in Lyra include Shelak, Zeta Lyrae, and Epsilon Lyrae. Epsilon Lyrae is the famous double-double star. But we'll concentrate on other objects in Lyra right now. Flight Master, flight number 18. Messier object number 56 is a globular star cluster that gets overlooked by many astronomers, especially even amateur astronomers. It is an easy target for binoculars as well as telescopes. It was discovered by Charles Messier himself on January 19th, 1779. A pair of 20 by 80 binoculars, you can see it as a faint fuzzy, fuzzball is what it looks like. An 8-inch or larger telescope at 100 power will resolve some of the outer stars in the cluster. If sky conditions permit, using 200 magnification, then this will allow you to resolve the inner stars in the cluster. Remember that globular clusters are old, forming about the same time as our galaxy. They have roughly all about the same size stars, which is about one solar mass, That means they're all about the same size as our sun. Slide master, slide number 19. The famous M57, which is the Ring Nebula. It's a planetary nebula. Planetary nebulas have nothing to do with planets, but probably got their names from being round-looking shaped objects that look like a planet in a telescope. Planetary nebulas form at the end of a stellar lifetime of a red giant star. The red giant swells and loses its outer layer, which becomes the round planetary nebula. What's left behind is a faint white dwarf star, which is at the center of the nebula. M57 can be found in a 3-inch telescope, but historically a 6-inch telescope or larger usually has been needed to see this shape. I've seen M57 with my 20 by 80 binoculars. It looks like a speck, but you can see it. Slide master, slide number 20. The white dwarf central star is difficult to see in M57 and requires quality optics, high magnification, dark skies, and steady seeing, making it a challenging object. A minimum of a 12-inch diameter telescope is usually required, though some have seen it at a 9 or 10-inch telescope with exceptional quality. In 2018, at the Texas Star Party, a group of task members, I was included in that, observed the Ring Nebula along with a number of other objects using a 36-inch telescope at the McDonald Observatory. Using the instrument, we observed that central star of M57. That was amazing. Slide master, slide number 21. At the 2019 Texas Star Party, the McDonald Observatory made the historic 82-inch Otto Struve telescope available for those who signed up for a couple of special viewing nights. Dennis Harwell, my friend, and myself signed up for the Saturday morning session that went from 2 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. One of the objects we observed was M57, the Ring Nebula, and I was happy to report that the 82 inches of the telescope turned the central star of M57 from a challenging object to an easy-to-see object. Slide master, slide number 22. IC, which is called the Index Catalog, 1296 is a barred spiral galaxy lying just 5 arc minutes northwest of M57, discovered by the famous astronomer E. Barnard. This 15th magnitude galaxy was mentioned by the late Walter Scott Houston, the author of the Deep Sky Wonders column in Sky and Telescope. Fortunately, due to the proximity of M57, I was able to look at IC 1296 during the special viewing session night with the 82-inch telescope during the 2019 Texas Star Party. Just like it did for the central star of M57, the 82-inch changed the IC 1296 from a challenge object into a very easy object to see. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 23. There are a few more Astronomical Link observing program objects in the constellation of Lyra the Harp. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, they've changed it, up to 76 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing session each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. And slide masters, the last slide in my deck, slide number 24. That is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Lyra the Harp. And I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. And also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. The next week we'll take a look at Scutum, the Shield, and Corona Austrinus, the Southern Crown. And this is KF5JHA. Chaz saying good night in 73. Back to our net control, Virginia. It's yours.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. And we are already at 10:30, so Tom. It's at your discretion as to whether you want to do all the space launches and satellite passages. It's up to you.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net. So we can go ahead and do this again next week. All this information for available spaceflightnow.com for the launch schedule, and you can go to I'll find it. You find it. You can also go to that's the launch schedule, and then individual passes and that. You can go to heavensabove.com. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. And I do want to recognize Bill, W5DLC. He has also checked in via our web thing. It was a while back, and I'm sorry I hadn't had time to squeeze in any more check-ins this evening. So, let's see how many we had participate this evening. We had, 11 plus, okay, looks like we had 16 hams participate in this evening's Skynet, including myself, Virginia NG5S, and Control. I appreciate the participation, and, let's see, trying to find my spot. We hope you'll all join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. Looking for net control? We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at being a net control, please email net@w5fc.org. You can follow the topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I will be closing this net at, it looks like 10:32 local time, and returning this repeater to normal, or should I say abnormal, amateur use, because right after this we will go to the Afterglow movie net in about 5 minutes. 7-3, everybody, enjoy the evening discovering the universe. This is Virginia in D5F.
Kilo Bravo 5 Yankee.
Kilo Bravo 5 Yankee.
Yes, ma'am, I didn't get a chance to check in, but I've listened to the whole net and it was very interesting. So you can add one to your account if you'd like.
Okay, thank you, and I'm sorry I didn't have a chance later in the net to stop and grab any more check-ins. Do you want to give me your name and your location for the list?
Yes, ma'am, it's Bruce Clay, and I am in Louisville, just north of Coppell here. Again, Bruce Clay, BRUCECLAY.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. We appreciate you checking in, and we're here on Skynet every Saturday night at 9 o'clock, and we go until about 10:30. So please feel free to join us next week and any week. We do all this cool space talk for every Saturday night. So thanks a lot. KC5Y, this is NG5F.
All right, thank you. And I would be interested to hear about the James Webb Telescope, if that could be a part of the program at some point.
Okay, well, every week we have a different net control, and each net control does have a segment where they do a presentation about a topic. We also have astronomical discoveries, and that often talks about some of the discoveries that the James Webb Telescope has been used to discover and research, to study. But yeah, it's probably been a while since we just had a presentation just about the Webb Telescope and how it works. So that's a very good idea. I'll consider that for a future. Thank you very much. D5F.
All right, thank you very much. Kilo Bravo 5 Yankee, be clear.
All right, it's been about 5 minutes, and it's time now for the Afterglow Movie Net. My name's Tom, KE5ICX. I'm down in Corpus Christi, talking to you through All-Star Link, but also using Echolink as a backup. So, tonight's movie is called Rocketship XM from 1950. It's a black and white science fiction film of Lippert Pictures and the first outer space venture in the post-World War II era. The film was produced and directed by Kurt Newman and stars Lloyd Bridges, Osa Massim, John Emery, Noah Beery Jr., Hugh O'Brien, and Morris Ackstrom. So at least you know two of those people. Rocketship XM tells the story of a moon expedition gone awry. Though a series of through a series of unforeseen events, the expedition crew finds themselves on the infamous red planet Mars. During their time on the planet, they go on to discover the remnants of a Martian civilization destroyed long ago by atomic war and now reverted to barbarism. Now, it's interesting because this film was done as Tony had mentioned, as kind of a knockoff for another bigger, high-profile film, and one you've probably heard of, George Powell's Destination Moon. Well, Rocketship XN was quickly shot in just 18 days on a $94,000 budget and then rushed to theaters 25 days before the Powell film, while taking full advantage of Destination Moon's high-profile national publicity. Given the film's minimal special effects budget and limited shooting days, the surface of Mars was much easier to simulate using remote Southern California locations than creating the airless and cratered surface of the Moon. The location where the crew exits the spacecraft and begins to explore the Zabriskie Point in Death Valley National Park. The film's original 1950 theatrical release print had all Mars scenes tinted in a sepia color. All other scenes were in black and white. RXM's design was taken from rocket illustrations that appeared in an article in the January 17, 1949 issue of Life magazine. The interior structure of the spacecraft's larger second stage is known as having a long ladder that the crew must climb. It runs up through the RXM's fuel compartment, which has on all sides a series of narrow fuel tanks filled with various propulsive chemicals. By selecting and mixing them together at various proportions, different levels of thrust are obtainable for the RXM engines. The crew ladder ends at a round pressure hatch in the middle of the bulkhead floor and leads to the crew's upper living and control compartment. Instruments and technical equipment were supplied by Allied Aircraft Company of North Hollywood. There's all sorts of technical details here, mostly about how the errors in scientific curiosity and all of that, but we can talk about that on our own. So, there you have it, just a brief synopsis. So what I will do is, and what this net is about in case you're listening to it for the first time, let me reset. What we'll do is we will take check-ins. I'll ask you for a call sign, your name, and did you see the film? And even if you didn't, that's perfectly okay, because we'll come back to you, and after you get some of the comments from others, if you're still around, because we know it's late out, we'll go ahead and ask you, would you dare watch this film after hearing what people have said about it here? So that's the game. We do 3 rounds. The first round, after check-ins, that is, we talk about the plot, followed by characterization, followed by special effects music, and anything you've either forgotten or would like to mention about the film. So we'll go ahead and get started right away. I will take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, Rocketship XM? Here we go.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie.
I saw this movie.
November Victor 5 Fox, Virginia. Yes, I saw this movie.
WB5OZL, name is Brenda. Yes, I saw this movie.
AC5DL, Dave, yes, I saw this movie.
All right. I've only got 4 check-ins here. I think there were 6 people who checked in. So bear with me. I will try and get you checked in. This is who I got. I got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yeah, you saw the film. NV5F, Virginia. Yes, she saw the film. There was a double. I'm not sure who it was. I think it was Bill, but we'll find out in a minute. WB50ZL, Brenda. Yes, she saw the film. And AC5DL, Dave, making his return appearance for the 3rd week in a row. And yes, he saw the film. There was a double, and then there was another person who called, who tried to check in with Brenda but had no audio and was not holding the repeater. So if you were somebody, if that sounds like you, potentially, and you were trying to check in, try checking your power, microphone, a couple of things, because just wasn't quite happening, and there was no audio, just a kind of a weak signal. Okay, I'll take additional check-ins. Please come now.
This is N5BD, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving, yes, I did see the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo. Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
All right, we picked up 2 more. I've got N5BD, Bill over in Irving. Yes, he saw the movie. KB9SOK, that's Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, he saw the movie. Let me see, anyone else out there? There are a couple of other people. Let me go ahead and go to Echolink. If you're on Echolink or All-Star Link, if you'd like to check in, please come to your call sign, your name, and you can see tonight's movie, Rocketship XM. Echolink only, please. All right. Well, nobody on Echolink. I do hear that mystery station out there. No audio, and I'm not sure what to tell you. But if you want to check your mic and try one more time, I'll give you a chance right now. Give it a shot, and anyone else who'd like to check in, please come now.
Tom, I don't think that was a station trying to check in. It's short transmissions, and some of them were while you were talking earlier, so they didn't seem like they were timed correctly. Inside BB.
Talk about plot. So the first guy on the runway is NT5TM. Tony, you get to kick off this round. So tell us what you think about the plot from KE5ICX.
Well, despite the fact that the movie was short, I thought the plot was too long and slow, and not particularly intelligent. I know that will come as a big surprise to people. You know, the plot really hinged on the astronauts being not too bright and not too well prepared, and their mission management team was the same way. You know, we're having a press conference, and it's T-minus 10 minutes to launch. Do you think maybe we should put the astronauts on the rocket ship? Oh, shoot, I almost forgot about that. They're supposed to be on the inside. Okay. They can't keep track of their fuel. They can't set the throttle correctly. They don't seem to have brought an adequate supply of slide rules, as they keep spending hours doing math with pencil and paper. I found the plot unengaging. I actually spent a lot of time during this movie reading papers on transmission line transformers. You know, it was ham radio related, right? But it was more interesting to read technical papers than watch this movie. And I'll insult the characters and the effects later. But yeah, I found the plot unengaging, and it really seemed to depend on people in the movie not being very bright. Let's wander around Mars with a pistol. We don't know how to get home, and we don't really have any supplies or any plan, but, you know, I like rounding around strange places and with firearms and maybe getting hit by rocks. They just seemed dumb. Dim, very dim. MT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. And just as a spoiler alert, they all die because they run out of fuel. Just desserts, I think. ND5F, Virginia, you're next. What do you think of the plot from KE5ICX?
I thought about as much of it as Tony did. They did attempt to at least have something kind of scientific as to why they all died, because they ran out of fuel to slow down, so they just crashed into the Earth, you know. So there was something, I mean, that was the one maybe kind of redeeming thing. It was obviously a knockoff of Destination Moon. Well, maybe not obviously. It was so bad that if you didn't know science fiction and when these movies came out, you might swear that it was a totally different plot. But it did come out the same year, and as still happens today, you know, one movie studio finds out what another one is doing, and they rush a much cheaper knockoff to market, hoping they can get you know, so that they can benefit off of that interest that in the movie that's been marketed longer, and get, you know, the I guess the same audience to you know, sustain themselves on this crappy knockoff before the real one comes out. But this movie bore so little resemblance to Destination Moon that if I didn't know the timeline, I might not even associate the two with each other, except they had, you know, a rocket ship, and there was, you know, there was one female character, and I don't know, and then there was the stupid romance plot in the middle of all of it, and the battle of the sexes plot, where the two, you know, the lady was, you know, fighting with the other, kind of subtly fighting with the other guy about whose numbers were right. And so yeah, this was obviously thrown together, very poorly researched, and I did love the opening bit about how they were just sort of, you know, thinking about maybe getting on the ship before it launched, and nobody wore spacesuits, and they, like Tony said, they didn't have a plan. I guess they all got, like, what is it, they got knocked out or something, and they missed the moon. You know, they just, like, flew by it, I guess, and just kept on going. So I guess their ship just keeps accelerating. You know, I mean, I guess I would guess if they were in a, you know, a lunar orbit, a TLI or whatever, they would have sort of gotten to the moon and just been captured by its orbit. I'm sure you have to adjust, though, for that. So maybe they were, the translunar injection, just they slept through it or something. And then all of a sudden, you know, in just a couple days, I guess, they made it to Mars. They're like, oh, look, we're at Mars. Let's get out and let's just check it out. They didn't even provide for the fact that getting to Mars is a much more complicated deal than getting to the moon. So yeah, generally unscientific, badly researched, cheesy, convenient. Oh, we'll go to Mars, we'll run around, we'll see some Martians, we'll get in a fight with them, and then we'll run back to our spaceship and jump on it and leave in the nick of time, and, not everybody makes it home. Yeah, the plot was just dumb, and it was, the ending was just, oh, well, I guess we don't have anything to do. Everybody's, on the spaceship is going to die. Everything just, they just crash into Earth, and then they announce that they're gonna, send more people up or something. I don't know. It was dumb. I'm sorry, I'll quit saying dumb, because whenever I say dumb a lot, Tom has to remark on how much I say dumb. So, that's it for me, NV5F.
All right, very good. Thank you, Virginia. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, what did you think about the plot?
This is WB50ZL. It was very unimaginative. It's like, okay, let's go to Mars. Let's go to the moon and lose our way and go to Mars, and there's some kind of creatures there, and everything that can possibly go wrong has gone wrong, but we'll get back to Earth, but no, we crash and burn. It's like, come on. And then the dumb romance, which was cringeworthy, the way they treat women is so wrong, and I didn't care for that at all. But that's in so many of those old movies. Yeah, so many holes and so many dumb things. They didn't even take spacesuits, and they go out in their shirt sleeves outside in Mars, which is average Mars temperature is minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So they couldn't do even a little research. They could have ginned up a few spacesuits and gone out there, and it would have been a lot more believable story. But they didn't. Yeah, I too was so aggravated with the, let's just sit around here and chill while it's 2 minutes to take off. It was so ridiculous. And these people didn't seem to be particularly well trained to be astronauts. It's one of my pet peeves. So many science fiction movies, the astronauts are not anything like the real astronauts that we know. In terms of their training or their personality or anything. They're just definitely don't have that right stuff. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Thank you, Brenda. Next up is Dave, AC5DL. Dave, what did you think about the plot? I knew you were out there watching the film last night. So what do you think from KE5 ICX?
Well, good evening, Tom, and all others on the net this evening. So what did I think about the plot on this? Well, first of all, like Tony was talking about earlier, it was kind of weird at the beginning of the movie how everything seemed to be rushed for them launching. It was kind of weird because they were wanting all these reporters to do interviews with the astronauts, and yet in the background you can hear the clock ticking off and all that. It kind of made me think that they were trying to compress the plot at that point, meaning that they didn't want to make it too boring with all of this talk about plans to go to the moon and all of that, with all these reporters asking questions. They wanted to get up in the air before people actually left the theater too early. So they kind of compressed everything and kind of had the countdown going in the background, so that you see them almost pushing them into the spacecraft to get them into their seats and all. Mission control, now that one was an interesting one. It kind of reminded me of the control tower in the movie Airplane, except in this case Lloyd Bridges is on the Rocketship instead of in the control tower. And they had helicopters, HF radios for communications, and folding metal chairs. Kind of a little bit different than mission control that we're used to. Original movie was shot in black and white, except for scenes where they walked around on Mars, where they kind of spilled some red ink on the film to kind of make it look like they were on Mars. Oh, and the spaceship included Navy-style bunk beds for the crew and a speed indicator that kind of looked like it belonged on an airplane. I mean, it was from an airplane. It used miles per hour with a maximum speed of 300 miles per hour, which I thought was kind of interesting. On this spaceship is pretty complicated. It's not just something like liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. No, these guys have to have several different fuels on board, which could be mixed by the astronauts, sometimes with unexpected results, as we saw. Let's see, even though the crew landed on Mars successfully, they were able to walk around on the planet without spacesuits. I know we talked about that. Only jumpsuits, flight jackets, and flight masks, and no helmets. And one guy was carrying around what looked to be like a World War I rifle with him, which was kind of weird. The crew finds evidence of life on Mars, including surviving mutant survivors of the nuclear war, and they also see ruins of buildings, maybe one of them being the restaurant at the end of the universe. But anyhow, I thought one of the interesting things was when they, after Dr. Lisa Van Horn and Dr. Ekstrom finally came up with their mix for the fuel, they put it in there, and it was almost so efficient, it kind of reminded me of an old Star Trek original series episode with Nomad, where he decided to improve the efficiency of the plasma injectors on the Enterprise and made it start going past warp 10. So that's kind of what they did here, only with regular fuel. But anyhow, interesting movie they threw together in 18 days in filming time with only $94,000 of moolah. So anyhow, that's kind of what I thought about the plot. This is AC5BL, back to net.
All right, thank you, Dave. And wow, that was a lot. And very good. Okay. Next up is Bill over in Irving, N5DB. Bill, your thoughts on why? N5DB. This is what happens when you don't go first. You go wandering away from the radio. Bill, are you out there? N5PP from KE5ICX.
I was distracted, Tom. Actually, I think I was starting to snooze. This is N5BD. Well, the plot. I agree that it was not that good, and there were a lot of holes in it, both scientific and non-scientific. Some of the things I disliked the most about what happened in the plot was in space they had eternal night. Like out and away from the planets in space, it would be dark all the time. It's exactly eternal daytime. The gravity in the spacecraft. They kind of had some lip service to low gravity, but they didn't show it well. And they showed them always having gravity for the humans, but sometimes the objects that they had would just kind of float around. That made no sense. They were doing these long manual calculations, like you say, not even the slide rule. This is 1950. Number one, mechanical calculating machines have been around a long time, a lot more than slide rule. The mechanical machines that added and multiplied mechanically with gears and other things. And early electronic computers even existed. Did they show any of that kind of technology? Nada. What kind of technology do they have? Lloyd Bridges grabs the throttles and pushes them up and down. When they took off, they had an autopilot. But did we see it being used later? No. This crazy. The meteorites. Remember by the way, things going by them out in space are not meteorites. They might be meteors. They're probably pieces of asteroids. You might describe them as meteors. They're not meteorites because they're not going through an atmosphere. Why are they glowing white hot? Out in space, nobody knows. Why do they make sound? Nobody knows. That was stupid. But I've seen other movies in the 50s with similar stupid meteorites. They were too cheap to have regular seats. So, there were aircraft seats. There were fighter airplane seats. They knew how to do seats that you could strap into in 1950. But they were too cheap to do any of that. So they had these little bunks, and they strapped down the bunks, which was, I think, pretty stupid. And in critical parts when they should have been strapped down, they didn't bother, which meant they got in all kinds of trouble. Again, single word for that would be stupid. There was, as mentioned earlier, all they thought they needed was an oxygen mask on Mars. Nope. However, this was 1950. There was a lot of differing opinions about what Mars was like. So, some people still thought it had canals, might have had water, might have had life, and there's probably disagreements about possible atmosphere. So, I don't know. I'll give them a 50% for that. The Martians killed by radiation. They insinuated that the Martians must have had an atomic war that killed them all, except for the damaged Martians that were damaged. Their DNA was, or their bodies were damaged by the radiation, and they became savages. This is like other movies of the time when they had, insects and 90-foot-tall women and things that were deranged due to radiation. I don't know. They used that radiation thing in plots in those movies way too much. This is N5BB, and there's more. How do the guns fire if the oxygen is so low? How do the guns fire? They look like regular guns, no oxygen. I don't think the powder would burn. What was the deal with the blind woman? She's blind. The other natives aren't blind. What did that have to do with anything? So I don't know. They threw a whole bunch of stuff together. They threw these big plot changes like, oh, they're not going to land on the moon, they're going to land on Mars. It's obvious why. On the moon, they'd have to wear nice spacesuits, and it would be much different environment. To simulate Mars, they just went out to a desert. So, I don't know. Stupid, cheap plot. I can see they threw it together real quickly. That's all I got in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. I'm just taking notes on everybody. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on plot from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, on the bright side, Tom, your dream finally came true. They all died. We finally had a movie where that happened now after 8 years. So at least that happened because these girls were all idiots. Yeah, I don't have much more positive to add. Everybody's pretty well covered most of the plot holes. Yeah, it was pretty bad. You know, we've seen so many. Now I kind of wish I had a chart going that how many times we've seen these going to the moon or going to Mars where, you know, there are certain check boxes that checks off every time. You know, we have the intro. I think that's the first time we've had the short delay before they got onto the rocket the last second. We've definitely had the launch it or office chairs. You know, we've had the, you know, not wearing any kind of suits. You know, we've had the asteroids. You know, it's almost the same formula over and over and over. They're not exactly being particularly original with any of these. The only maybe twist on this one was, well, they missed the moon, so they just went to Mars. But yeah, the plot, you know, even from the beginning, you know, it was already mentioned, I think Bill mentioned it about, you know, they used the computer to take off, but yet they couldn't use the computer to do any other calculations. You know, they made mention at the press conference about how they'd sent up all kinds of remote control rockets that were fully automated and made the trip to the moon and back with no problems, but yet when they go up there, almost there's a fuel problem, you know, mixture problem. You know, and then the whole part about the argument between the lady and the other scientist, you know, she was a fuel expert. You know, that's why she was there. So why they had to make him right, I have no idea. It was just completely dumb. But yeah, I just won't sit there and dwell on this one. Everybody's, I think, covered all the other little things. So anyway, back to that KB9SOK.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. We are at the bottom of the list. I'll take additional check-in. Tonight's movie is Rocketship XM from 1950. So if you'd like to join in on the conversation, now's your opportunity. If you've never seen the film, that's okay. You can still check in. We'll ask you to remind you of any other unpleasant film you've seen. So I'll take additional check-ins. Please come to your call sign name. Did you see tonight's movie, Rocketship XM?
This is Whiskey 5, Bacon Plus Tomato, W5PLC. Bill, yes, I saw this movie.
Okay, I think all the usual suspects have checked in. W5BLT, Bill, you did see this fine film. Now you get to make comments about it. What did you think about the plot? from KE5ICX.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be really bad when they're having a press conference right before getting on the ship, and it's like 15 minutes to go, you know, and kept thinking of the flying from Star Wars were a little rushed, so if you'll get on board, we'll get out of here. Well, come on, you guys, get on board, you know. Yeah, it's just really weird, and then it just went downhill from there. The one thing I will say, as someone who is flying, I do appreciate asteroids that make noise, because as a blind person in space, or you know, if you're a blind woman on Mars, or blind man, you never hear those asteroids in meters that are coming at you. And fortunately, my hearing aids are tuned to the right frequency, because they were loud, so you couldn't miss them. And so yeah, the plot, it just kept going downhill. I won't beat a dead horse. Everybody's already said, you know, that as you know, you guys talking about the asteroids making noise, and for some reason, and I didn't realize the girl was blind on Mars. I missed that. But for some reason it kept occurring to me as I was thinking about just being blind, that it's really good that the asteroids make noise when you're in space. And even the spaceships make noise, which wouldn't be happening in real life, but hey, at least you can hear it. W5GLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. Yes, noisy asteroids or meteors, meteorites, whatever you want to call it, are always helpful. Adds to the dramatic tension, no doubt about it. Plus, it's a requirement in every science fiction rocket ship movie that you got to have meteors or meteorites or something, whatever they're called, something floating and trying to hit the side of your spacecraft. Okay, some of the things I found really kind of strange in this film. It only had 19 days to filming, so there was no pickup shots or anything. I think what I mean by pickup is filling out parts of the film that make it more coherent. I think that was part of the problem, is they didn't have any money and they didn't have any time, and they had to move quickly to make this happen. So scenes weren't getting filmed. As an example, we have the battling cavemen, or the Lost Society or whatever, and they're fighting each other, and then the next thing we see, they're flying away. They're leaving the scene. There's nothing about them hurrying to get in the spaceship or punching a bunch of buttons to make the thing work. Nothing. They're leaving. And okay, that's great. So there's that. Everybody talks about the gravity thing and go, huh? What's the deal with the gravity? Yeah, we know, well, we're close to Earth, but we're far away. You can see it in it was 120,000 miles away, and they still had gravity, more or less. That didn't make any sense. But then when you think about it, both the new version Star Trek, J.J. Abrams, he did that in, I think, the last episode, second to last episode, the last movie, the same thing, and then Star Wars did it in, I think it was the third movie, whatever that one was called, the third one in sequence. So that would be well, you figure it out. You do the math. You know what I'm talking about, the one with Darth Vader's creation. There's the whole thing with the spaceship going down, and there's a down. And they're in orbit, but there's gravity, and it causes them to slide down this set. So they did that both on Star Trek and Star Wars. So I don't know. I don't like that. They do it for sensation, I guess. News conference, we've talked about that. 15 minutes to launch. Don't you think you guys need to be doing more things like getting the spaceship running? Reset. Now, there's some comment about, Rocketship XM, as in the expedition to the moon, or Mars, for that matter. I guess M would have worked for Mars, too. But what I don't understand is, why don't you just make the mission go to Mars? Just skip the middleman going to the moon. You can make some mumbo-jumbo about going close by the moon on the way to Mars, because that's another thing. Everything's about 100 feet apart. Whether you're going to the moon or Mars, it's not very far. You look out one window, you can see the Earth and the moon. You look out the other window, you can see Mars. So even though the mission itself would take like 2 years to get there, in this case it took them, 2 hours with their special formulated fuel. By the way, did you ever watch, as you were watching them hit the accelerator thing, the throttles, that they keep moving the throttles up from the same position over and over and over again as it continues to go faster and faster and faster? I don't know. Who knows? Let's see. Did that. One other comment. Let's see. Space is small. Society on Mars. Now, that was the one interesting part. They showed some of these the blown out structures. We find out that it's nuclear warfare that's caused it to happen. Now, that would have been interesting, actually talking about what happened on Mars and how it occurred, or who is still remaining and what they could do. But instead, we got the caveman thing and throwing rocks at one another, and we never get to find out anything about the actual architecture, any of the buildings, the society, or any of that. No, we don't have time for that. We got to talk about, geez, I'm sorry, I hurt your feelings and stuff on the rocket ship, and talking endlessly about nothing. I just didn't care. But as I said, there was a silver lining in this film. Everybody was dead at the end, with the exception of the guys and gals. They're going to mount XM2. RXM2. Why, I don't know. But hopefully it'll find smarter astronauts next time. We'll just have to see. Okay, let's go to the top. We're going to talk about the characterizations, if you can even remember who's who in this thing, starting with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, your comments on characterization and acting from KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. You already made part of my comment for me. I couldn't remember their names. We've said dumb, we've said stupid. I'd like to bring a new bad word into our net, insipid. Insipid. The characters were insipid. They were tasteless. They meant nothing to me, and I didn't care about them at all. So I'm going to sneak in a little commercial here. When I trash a movie, I like to suggest a book we should read instead. And in this case, I want to suggest a man named John Clark, who wrote a book called Ignition, an informal history of liquid rocket propellants. You can buy this book. It's been out of print for 50 years. There's also a number of PDFs of it circulating on the internet. It's a lot of fun, and it's about all these different experiments in developing liquid rocket fuels. Bad writers like this, whoever wrote this movie, like to imagine that there were these secret chemicals that were even more powerful than things like hydrogen and oxygen, when in fact, the real chemists knew that wasn't so. They were trying to develop liquid fuels to meet odd requirements, like they have to be storable, they have to ignite on contact, okay, hypergolic, we know about that, but they also can't freeze or get slushy at minus 50 centigrade. Whoops. So they're meeting these unusual technical requirements. There's not some secret weapon that's going to accidentally shoot you 50 million miles into space if you open the valve a little too wide. So that's Ignition by John Clark. It's an awful lot of fun. I have a copy at my phone right now. I'm going to quickly skip ahead to round 3 because I have nothing to say about the characters. I was really disappointed. Well, I'll have more comments in round 3, but I have to get this one out first. I was so disappointed in the music. I actually know not personally, but I know of the composer, Ferde Grofe. He was very notable, had some famous works. But yet what we got was this very generic 1950s, stereotypical, cliche-filled score that anybody could have written. It did have a little bit of theremin briefly. That was nice, but 99% of that score was disappointing. Anyway, NT5TM. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tony, and I think that's a fair assessment of our characters and even the music. Next up is Virginia, ND5F. Virginia, same question to you. What you think about characterization and acting of KE5ICX?
Kind of what Tony said. I'll go into a little detail, I suppose. The characters were kind of interchangeable. They tried. They had the guy from Texas, and they had his whole, they had to stereotype people from Texas as being very proud. And then they had the dashing, leading man romance guy, and then they had to have, they had a lot of stereotypes. They had a female stereotype, the successful female who has to put up with all of the, all of the sexist remarks, and that did make me care about her. I felt for her because she was putting up with a lot of crap, and I did find her character at least sort of likable, and I guess my main thing is that because they computer colorized this, you could tell it was just done with some kind of an algorithm or something, because there were so many weird color anomalies, and the shading of things was so weird. But the weirdest thing was another thing that, black and white film, I guess, can kind of seem this way too, but this colorization made everybody's skin tone exactly the same. So not only were they sort of interchangeable, they all seemed to sort of have exactly the same color of skin. Even within a people group, you're not going to have like every single person in that people group, all with exactly the same like hue of skin or shade or whatever. So I thought that was kind of a funny thing I noticed. The acting was so-so to fair. It was just thrown together, so I'm not gonna expect good acting or memorable characters in something like this. It was really just a money grab to take advantage of a more popular, high-profile movie that was coming out, and it makes me wonder if I did some research into what movies were released in a hurry between science fiction movies released between 1964 and 1968 to take advantage of the very high-profile 2001 A Space Odyssey production. I would be curious to do research and see if people made what movies they made, in that period that might have been based on leaks of information, from that production, and see if there were any like this that were just kind of cheesy but trying to do the same thing that 2001 was saying they were going to do. So I know it's an old story, for that to happen. It still happens, and this is just, you're not going to get a lot of quality in something like this. But there were people, there was there were people that went on to be in other things, so maybe this was a good starting off point, or at least for somebody, a couple people to get noticed. And I did think the radio was funny. All the bad science notwithstanding, the radio, them using HF radio to talk to space was hilarious, and then it seems the further away they couldn't get them on the radio, because they were too far away, whereas in real life it would have been, they would have used, like a VHF frequency, and it would have just been a latency problem, but it was not really realism there, but I thought it was a little silly that they were saying that they were going to communicate with the spacecraft with a frequency that bounces back off of the ionosphere, so I thought that was pretty hilarious. Just a little aside. Back to net, NV5F.
Everybody's having the same issue here. The characterization is kind of stucco. So if you want to slip in part 3, by all means, go ahead. That's perfectly fine by me because there's nothing to say about any of these characters. But you're welcome to try. Brenda, WB50ZL, you're up. Characterization or whatever you want to talk about from KE5, ICX.
Oh, this is WB50ZL. I'm not going to talk very long. I've got low battery, and so I'm going to go fetch a cord from the other room. I mean, I just didn't like these people. They were just, I don't know, they weren't very good astronauts. They weren't very nice to each other. They were obnoxious. And I didn't think this was a good representation of our astronaut program. So, I don't know. I would hate to be on that flight. That would be so boring. They're just boring people, and I would not like it. All right, well, I'm going to go find a power cord, WB50ZL. Back to net.
This evening from KE5 ICX.
Tom, most of your last transmission was unreadable, staticky stuff in V5F.
Characterization, acting, or anything else you want to talk about. I wonder if we're picking up Skip or something. I'm hearing a courtesy tone at the end. It's a little different from ours. But we'll try one more time. AC5DL, Dave, can you hear me from KE5 ICX?
KE5 ICX, I hear you this time, Tom. The other times I wasn't. Anyhow, characterization. Well, you know, we got some interesting characters here. We got the very serious Dr. Carl Ekstrom, who
is the authority on the mission and is going to be more or less the one telling everyone how it's all going to go. And then we have Dr. Lisa Van Horn, who's very well educated, only female crew member on the mission, and obviously very capable. And at one point in the movie, they get in an argument, so to speak, about fuel formulas, and she just wasn't taken very seriously, but I guess that kind of was common back in the 1950s, and anyhow, there was that. I think at some point she was told to go get coffee or something of that nature, which was pretty rude, but anyhow, then there's Lloyd Bridges, and he's supposed to be the emotional contrast to Ekstrom's logic, I guess. But anyhow, who else we got? Harry Chamberlain, I think. I'm trying to remember if he was the Texan, and probably the guy that was carrying the rifle on the surface of Mars. Anyhow, probably in the 1950s, they probably had to have something with a Western motif in it, so maybe that's why he's in there. And then there's Major William Corrigan. He's probably the guy that had the flight jacket on, walking around on Mars. I don't know, all of them weren't memorable. I think the most memorable character to me was the Martian lady who didn't have sight. I mean, she screamed, and that was probably some of the most emotion shown in the film. But anyhow, I guess that's kind of what I thought about characterization. Not a whole lot. The acting wasn't the best, but then it was probably thrown together very quickly and not with a whole lot of finesse. Anyhow, this is AC5BL back to net.
Well, thank you, Dave. You actually took and spent more time on the characters than they deserved, but that's just me. Next up is Bill, N5BB. Bill, same question to you. What do you think about characterization, acting, anything else you want to get from KE5I6?
Okay, Tom, this is N5BB. Before I talk about the characters, some other things related to the action and plotting or special effects or what do you want to call it. So their view of navigating and flying the spacecraft is essentially you go up vertically with some kind of automatic system that gets you going so far, and once you get to, 300 miles or something, the pilot goes over, grabs a knob, and turns the spacecraft by 90 degrees with everybody hanging on for dear life. Then, when it's going they can then fly that way. So it's a right angle trajectory. You go up, you take a right angle, you go. When they got to Mars, I think they did the same thing. You go up, you take a right angle, and you go. It was silly and funny nearly watching them. Did they bother getting in their little couches? No. They just hung up, fell over and everything when they did that right angle turn. I thought that was comical. There was something else related that I was going to mention, but I've now forgotten it. The characters. So the ones I recognized, all the actors we saw that had names and did things had been in other movies. But the ones I think that had significant careers. The main one, of course, was Lloyd Bridges, who, of course, had two sons that were big in movies, too. And Lloyd was always the outdoorsy, good-looking, all-American guy, blonde hair, and always in charge, could do anything, athletic, you name it. So that was Lloyd Bridges, and so he played it up to the hilt on this. He was the pilot. He went over and grabbed those handles and pushed them up and down. You got to remember, their idea of navigating to the moon or back was essentially just pointing in the right direction and then go over and manually cranking on the throttles. The other guy was yelling, "No, you're going a little bit too fast." Okay, crank them down a little bit. "No, you're going too slow." Okay, push them up again. This was silly. Of course, they had a speedometer. It looked like an airspeed indicator. They had a speedometer and some kind of altitude indicator, which were kind of silly. But it made for some visuals. Anyway, so Lloyd Bridges, he tried doing the little romantic thing with the woman, who I'd never heard of before, but she did act in some other movies and other things. And so probably the most interesting acting in the whole thing are the scenes that were written that were slightly interesting, maybe, was the slight attempt at romance between Lloyd Bridges and the woman. And that little, you know, their verbal things and them looking at the moon and all that. It was very sappy. As I think Tony mentioned, the music got sappy, and that was silly. But at least there was a little bit of dialogue and actors doing something. They weren't just complete nincompoops. They looked like they were uncomfortable, but they weren't complete nincompoops during those scenes. Everything else was, they were nincompoops. This is Inside BB. Then the guy from Texas was a very famous actor, Noah Beery Jr. And his uncle had appeared in movies before them. Noah Beery Jr., he was in just all kinds of westerns and other things. And he, you know, you expected to see him with like a straw between his teeth or something, talking about his cows in Texas. And, you know, you normally see him with a cowboy hat on and boots. That was Noah Beery Jr., just a good old guy, good old regular guy. And in many movies, I think he kind of tended to make mistakes. So if a mistake could be made, he typically made it, because he wasn't real sharp as far as the characters he normally portrayed, you know. So he played the same kind of guy here. He was the engineer, but he was kind of a goofy engineer. Anyway, and then another actor that was in there that was in many other westerns and things was Hugh O'Brien. He was he the navigator, I think? The guy that ran the radar and things? He got killed? I think that was, if I remember correctly, that was his character. But he was in lots and lots of westerns and things, so he had a long career, mainly in westerns, Hugh O'Brien. And then the other guy I kind of recognized, I had to look him up, was the guy back on Earth, the guy in charge that had the news conference, that sent him up there, that sat with his head in his hands after they crashed. His name, well, it wasn't his original name, but his actor name was Morris Ankrum. And he did the standard thing they always do in these kind of movies. He played the guy that was, you know, bullying around all the press. He said, I'm going to give you a little information, But don't you use it. Use this handout I'm giving you, which was really silly. And but he was the guy in charge now on the Earth, and I've seen him before in some other things. So those were the other actors I've never seen before, including the woman. I don't remember seeing her in anything else. But Noel Berry Jr., Hugh O'Brien, and Lloyd Bridges were in lots of other things. Cowboy movies, other movies, and of course Lloyd Bridges was in these comic spoofs at the end of his career. So there was a little bit of interest from seeing those specific actors and the little funny things that Noah Berry Jr. did, but that wore off pretty quick. It was all kind of thrown together, and those are people with some experience, so they could kind of throw them in there, and they weren't complete duds. They weren't complete duds in the movie because they did have some experience, and they knew how to do things. They knew how to act. But they didn't have enough time to develop this movie very far, so it didn't help them very much. Let's put it that way. So they all died in the end. The rocket crashed. They all died. That's about the way this movie went. By the way, I just don't know. Did it make any box office? Did anybody care? Did it get reviewed at the time? Did anybody care about this movie? That's all I got in 5B.
I'm not sure it got much airplay at all. It's had, through the years, it's kind of got a cult following. I'm not quite sure why. But I don't know. There's nothing on the wiki about it saying how much money it made. But considering it was such a low-budget film to begin with, they must have made some money. But who knows? Let's see. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization. If you want to add anything in on anything else, by all means, go ahead. From KE5ICX.
KB9SOK. Well, I think I'm quite impressed with Bill and his covering of the characters. I didn't get to know them that well. You know, to be honest, I couldn't really remember their names when we started tonight, and you know, and they were all pretty interchangeable for the most part. You know, we had our captain, you know, we had the lady, which had a very clear role of being the fuel expert, and we had a pilot, which I can't remember which one that was, and then the other two, I couldn't tell you what they were there for. I don't remember. So yeah, not particularly memorable. Not really the actor's fault. This was just not particularly well written. Obviously, it's sort of a stay this was thrown together. So I guess I really can't knock the actors too much. It just wasn't a great script. The dialogue, even when they attempted to try to, you know, get to know them, the stories they were telling each other, didn't really add to the story. They were just like little weird tales that really had nothing to do with it. And I just never really cared for these people. So, yeah. Music wasn't anything in particular special. Special effects, well, you know, we didn't really have much to it. I guess the interior of the rocket, I'll give them credit. It wasn't huge. At least they tried to keep it somewhat small and real. You know, typically in these movies, you know, they're the size of a luxury house. But this one was a little smaller, other than the climb through the middle of the rocket was kind of ridiculous. That was about it. Yeah, there wasn't. I mean, they did talk about if they landed on the moon, the guy was excited to use his spacesuit, and when he picked it up, all it was a fighter helmet. But, of course, since their awesome science said that they didn't need anything on Mars. So anyway, as always, it's always enjoyable talking with everybody. Looking forward to the next one. Back to net. KV9S, okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. And David says it made about $650,000 in sales. That's what he's got written over here. That's on the Afterglow gang chat group over on Facebook. That's what we use when we watch the movies on Friday. So he mentioned that. Popped up here a few minutes ago. Okay, next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, you get to make your comments about characterization and I guess anything else you want, music or whatever you want from KE5ICX.
Well, thanks, Tom. I think besides the outdoor that we see, I'm going to go for my fellow blind compatriot, The Girl on Mars. I'll vote her with the Academy Award for the best screen of that year. And I really don't have not a whole lot to say. You know, it was interesting because when I was watching the movie, I thought, did they all die? And yeah, sure enough, they did. And I was kind of surprised that they ended it that way. And then they're talking about doing the rocket XR or XM2. And I thought, wow, that would be a great sequel. So, yeah, it's just bizarre, you know, you get these people on Mars and just weird, you know. So I guess we could have a sequel and we could do another fine film like this. I don't know how much it costs to make this, but I think, you know, again, I've said it before on this net that, you know, people were just looking to be entertained, so they'd go to a drive-in movie or movie theater, and it was kind of revolutionary to go from radio to this, I suppose. You know, in the 50s and 60s, you'd go to drive-in movies, even in the 70s, I can remember as a kid going, but maybe it's, you know, kind of like what we have now on TV, the entertainment value is, you know, you've got a lot of stuff out there that you have to sift through to find the really good stuff. That's all I got, W5BLT. Back to you, Tom.
All right, thank you, Bill. Okay, let's see. I don't have a lot to add. Characterization. In fact, I found them all boring and kind of just nondescript. It was nice seeing, I mean, we had Lloyd Bridges in it. He's an actor, and then Hugh O'Brien, who also was a decent actor, both of whom appeared in their own television series in the 1960s, the up-and-coming thing called TV. So another 10 years or so, they would be big stars in television. And a lot of, as we say, that a lot of people who were in movies did make the move to television. Probably had more work than movies, although the movie guys usually get more money, except in this film where nobody made anything. But the film did make some money, I guess, along the way. Nothing else to report. I did some looks at the links to the reporters. All those people were actors that appeared in various films, some of which you even know, just as character actors. So they were pulled from casting call, and if you look, they all look kind of vaguely familiar, and that's because they appeared in background things as well, and minor characters and speaking roles. So nothing different there. Let's see, anything I can say about the film itself? Not really. Well, I thought the sets were pretty good. I guess Allied aircraft helped out quite a bit and brought in all this heavy equipment to make it look reasonably realistic. There is a scene in there with it's corrugated metal that they use as one of the tanks or something. It's just stuff you would use on a roof that's been pulled and you can't see the seam because it's away from the camera, but that's exactly what it is. Some of the other things, the strange stairwell that looks like a Rome tower that they went up, the ladder, that was a bit weird, of course, or maybe something, well, bigger, I guess, mainly like a transmission tower or something, transmission antenna. So that was kind of interesting. I love the Morse code at the very beginning. It was going too fast. Bill, you could probably make it out and tell us what they were saying, but it's a little too fast. Well, a lot too fast for me, so I couldn't figure it out. But at any rate, you might want to check and see. There is that little gem at the very beginning when they're going through their medical, and you hear the Morse code going on. Of course, you would send all your medical records by Morse code. Who doesn't, right? Okay, with that, I'll ask if there's any final comments. Please come to your call sign or any final check-ins, and I'll take you in order. So we're getting up to the final minute. So if you have something else you'd like to say, just give me a call sign now, and we'll go down the list.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
W5OZL.
AC5DL.
Okay, we got three, NT5TM, WB50ZL, and AC5DL. We'll start with Tony. NT5TM, go ahead.
Sure, I just wanted to briefly bemuse myself here, or talk about my bemusement, that one of these repeated cliches in early science fiction movies is the spaceships are always built like, well, ships, like battleships with big heavy steel frames and gigantic heavy hatches and often big rivets in places and giant bolts. And I just find that weird because, this is after World War II. If they hadn't been in an airplane, they'd have at least seen one, and they know that they're always built out of really light materials like aluminum or spruce or fabric, and they don't have big, thick steel plates on them. So, I don't know. I wonder how that got to be such a convention in early science fiction. NT5TM.
Well, I think the reason for that is because it's a rocket, okay, and you've got reinforced nose cones and a little heavier, made out of metal and that, and I guess they just took it to the next level. Plus, I think a lot of times the equipment they used were either from broadcast facilities or, ground equipment or whatever, and so it was all heavy and bulky and vacuum tubes and all of that. And then also, because there were movies that were in submarines and that, it just made sense that you had these heavy hatches. So I think that had a lot to do with it. Just a guess on my part. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Your final comments from KE5ICX.
WB5OZL. I did like the music, and that's one of the things about that I think helped. I wouldn't say it saved the movie, but it made it less obnoxious. It was scored by Groffet, who did the Grand Canyon Suite, so he was a big name at one time. And there was theremin music throughout the movie. This is the first time the theremin was ever used in a science fiction movie. Now, there's a poster here. This is the screen's first story of man's conquest of space. In what way did man conquest space here? It looks like it got him pretty badly. So, the whole thing was just a massive failure. They were incompetent, and they made a lot of mistakes, and they were stupid, and everybody died. So, don't know where the success was. All right, I'm done. Back to net. WB50ZL.
Very good. Thank you, Brenda. And then finally, Dave, AC5DL, your final comments.
Well, with all of the gloom and doom talked about in this movie, it just makes me realize all of us that watch movies on the Afterglow net are used to this with Tom's selections of movies. But there always is something about every movie that's redeeming. And as I think about it, I just think
Elvis has left the building.
A movie that includes a mission control center with helicopter safe-jet radios, a spaceship with Navy bunk beds, or a spaceship with different rocket fuels for every day of the week. So with that, those are my final comments. AC5DL, back to net.
Well, David, thank you. I think you sunk their battleship for the their spacecraft. Because I agree with you. You hit on all the stupid stuff and made it stick. So congratulations. You get a gold star and the Critics Award for this evening. All right, well, let's see here. I was trying to pick a movie for next week, and I had enough forethought to go ahead and check the links ahead of time, only to find my A-list, B-list, and C-list were all removed from the streaming. So we're going to do one as though kind of one I've been curious about for a very long time and never seen it, and it does have a space theme to it. So get ready for this. You're going to have to find your old store of weed and get ready for some rock and roll. It'll be heavy metal from 1981. Heavy metal from 1981, available on archive.org. I will send the information out if you would like to be added to the list, and I did add one this week. Well, actually, Tuesday night I added someone, so we'll continue to do that. Just send an email to me at my call sign, KE5ICX, that's Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com, and I'll put you on the list, and you'll get next week's movie and link Sunday morning, which will be tomorrow. We'll see y'all. Have a good evening. I don't know, maybe I'll watch this early episode of Lost in Space, although I'm fading fast. Been up since 3 o'clock. See y'all. Have a good evening. This is KE5ICX. Now clear.
W5FC.